Our best investigative reporter right now is Luke Rosiak. Luke does an amazing job. It was Luke who uncovered the sexual assault of a minor by a person who identified as a member of the opposite gender in a bathroom in Loudon County, and the denial of the Loudon County School District that anything bad had happened, and it totally shifted the Virginia governor's race. Well, now Luke has another story, and this story is just gut-wrenching. So here is the story. Apparently, the state of Maryland refused to give a Virginia runaway back to her parents because her parents, quote-unquote, misgendered her. And then she was sex trafficked, according to the mom. These are the wages of a state that values gender ideology nonsense over the actual safety of children. Now, here's what Luke reports. Quote, a 14-year-old transgender runaway from Virginia endured a 6-month nightmare that saw her twice fall into the hands of sex traffickers, the second time after Baltimore bureaucrats refused to return her to her home state because they accused her adoptive parents of misgendering her, according to records reviewed by the Daily Wire. The child, identified in legal documents as Sage, was adopted by her biological grandmother, Michelle Blair, after the death of her father. Long troubled, Sage began identifying as a male named Draco and ran away from their rural home in late August of 2021, only to end up on the mean streets of Baltimore, where authorities rescued her from a convicted sex offender, according to records. So she ran away from home. She ended up in Maryland. She was in the home of a convicted sex offender, and the authority found her. But instead of taking her back to her parents, instead they decided to put her in an inner-city group home. Why? Well, because they said that her adoptive blood relative parents didn't sufficiently recognize her transgender identity. So they'd rather put her in essentially an orphanage in Baltimore with random people rather than with her adoptive parents, who apparently are close relatives, because her close relatives refuse to acknowledge that a boy can become a girl or a girl can become a boy. It is not possible to return the child to that home, said Judge Robert B. Kershaw, after an impassioned plea from Baltimore Assistant Public Defender Anissa Khan. Instead, the judge turned Sage over to the Baltimore City Department of Juvenile Services, quote, for placement in a hardware-secure therapeutic facility, which makes reasonable accommodation for respondents' expressed male gender and desire to live as a trans male. Remember, this is a 14-year-old child. This is a child. That meant housing the girl just rescued from a sex offender with some of Baltimore's most troubled biological males. After months in Maryland institutions, Sage bolted, only to resurface in Texas, where she once again had been allegedly trafficked to pedophiles, according to records. Unlike their counterparts in Maryland, Texas officials returned her to her parents, according to an ethics complaint that was filed by the parents against the public defender. Khan allegedly told the girl to lie about being abused by her parents, seemingly in order to create a legal precedent allowing states, other than where a teen lives, to refuse to return a runaway teen if transgender issues are in play. Whew. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, there's one substance that is keeping me alive and kicking these days. That is Black Rifle Coffee. I have 3 young kids. I have a 4th on the way. I have a puppy in the house, and I work, which means I'm up at all hours of the morning. They're waking me up in the middle of the night. I need my coffee. I need my Black Rifle Coffee. And Black Rifle Coffee Company doesn't just make great coffee. They're on a mission to build a support network for veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by serving you the best coffee you've ever had. Thanks to your support, that dream has become a reality. This year alone, Black Rifle Coffee donated over 120,000 bags of coffee to veterans and first responders while expanding their own team of active duty service members, veterans, and veteran family members. If you want to continue supporting this incredible company, go to blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code Shapiro at checkout for 10% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee is roasted by a veteran-led team of brilliant coffee graders here in the United States. The coffee is truly one of a kind. It's your support that gets gear, funding, and supplies into the hands of people on the front lines. Head on over to blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code Shapiro for 10% off. You can also find Black Rifle Coffee in grocery and convenience stores near you. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Also, the Daily Wire, we have a bunch of open roles right now. One of the ways we are seeking to fill those roles is by going to our friends over at ZipRecruiter.com and trying to find the best employees. If you are looking for great employees, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. If you need to hire for your business, do it the same way we do. Head on over to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. Try it for free. ZipRecruiter uses powerful technology to find the right candidates for your job. And if you see a candidate you like, you can easily send them a personal invite so they're more likely to apply. Their user-friendly dashboard makes it easy to filter, review, and rate your candidates all from one place. Let ZipRecruiter help you find the best people for all your roles. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within day 1. See for yourself. Head on over to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. Try ZipRecruiter for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE. ZipRecruiter is indeed the smartest way to hire. So do the same thing that we do. Head on over and use it. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire to get started. Find the best employees. Contact them easily. Sift through the resumes. Do all the hard work a lot more easily with ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE. So again, just to be clear about what happened here, the accusation is that the Baltimore Assistant Public Defender Anissa Khan encouraged this very troubled 14-year-old girl, who is now identifying as a boy, to claim abuse at the hands of her adoptive close relative parent so that she would not be returned to those people, mainly because they say that she's actually a girl and not a boy. Being the subject of an interstate tug-of-war driven by an ideological leftist bureaucracy was a new kind of exploitation for Sage, who had become accustomed to evil men seeking to use her for profit or gratification. Her grandmother recounted for police how the cruel spiral began for the child she still hopes to raise. "I went to wake up my daughter," Blair said, describing the morning of August 25th, 2021, in an Appomattox County Sheriff's Office report. "She was gone. The window screen had been cut open. I immediately looked everywhere, and they drove to the Appomattox Sheriff to report Sage missing." Sage would later reveal she sneaked out to meet someone she thought was a 16-year-old boy who liked skateboarding, but the person was in fact a sex offender who had been grooming her online and took her to Washington and then to Baltimore, according to Michelle. A frantic search that included the Sheriff's Office, FBI, Virginia State Police, and U.S. Marshals ended 1 week later when Sage was found in Baltimore with Kenneth Fisher, a 36-year-old convicted sex offender. In the week she'd been missing, Sage experienced untold horror at his hands. Blair would later write in a victim impact statement, quote, "When Sage was delivered to this man, he told my daughter she was now part of his family. Sage replied she was only 14 years old and please don't rape me, to which Kenneth Fisher immediately took her into his bedroom and violently raped her. He enjoyed strangling her, but not quite to death. This sick man trafficked her to so many men that Sage lost count." Fisher is now being housed in jail, but he was not the last adult to exploit Sage because after Sage was found, Blair drove all night to pick her up. But the city of Baltimore said she was being held in jail as a defendant, apparently for running away. Her court-appointed lawyer was Khan, whose LinkedIn page says, quote, "Defense attorneys become the heroes of justice, as they were called to stand in the gap between the coercive power of the state and the relatively limited power of the indigent accused, who were and are still disproportionately black and Latinx." It was Khan who persuaded Judge Kershaw not to return Sage to her home in Virginia after her 72-year-old grandfather, overcome by emotion, accidentally called her she. Ironically, Blair is a longtime court-appointed child advocate, ordinarily making her an ideal trusted parent. But the Maryland Juvenile Court maintained her home was abusive, even after a local Virginia agency's investigation found no such mistreatment. Blair believes Khan was intent on making her daughter a poster child in the fight for trans rights above parental rights, no matter the cost. A week after ruling that Sage could not be sent back to Virginia, Kershaw received a form asserting Blair's right of custody and the obligation of the state of Maryland to turn her over under the Interstate Compact on juveniles, the ICJ. Kershaw rejected it on a technicality. Kershaw, careful to use Sage's preferred masculine pronoun and new name, also faulted the petition for failing to, quote, "state the circumstances of Draco's running away or his location at the time the application was made." Kershaw ordered Sage fitted with a GPS monitor and sent to an institution called the Children's Home. But it seems that Draco then ran away again. Sage ran away again and found herself in Texas, where she was then trafficked to a bunch of pedophiles. So the trans agenda taking precedent over any interests of the child. Absolutely horrifying story. Good on Luke for reporting it. If this is a systemic problem across the country, kids being removed from their parents because the parents refuse to go along with the predations of gender ideology, we are in a world of trouble, and so are our children. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be talking with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo about all things China, Russia, and the Trump administration. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click the link in the description and join us.